Good afternoon.
Hello, sir. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Greetings.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. Who is, I'm Jose, and I'm supposed to be the moderator for the session.
Yes, sir. I'm making you host for the same.
Okay. So I can see there are only three of us here, so maybe we should wait a little bit. Okay.
Once participants are there, we will start the session. I'll add them and we'll start the session.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon again. Have we got any of the presenters here?
Sir, just a minute, I'm cooperating with the same.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly.
Oh, yes, sir, we are cooperating with the same. So we will have to wait for a while.
Um, I'm not the host actually. I don't know who.
Hello, sir.
who's
I have made. Please make me host. I mean, just
myself. I'm not the host. I just logged in when the host let me in.
yes, sir. Yes.
So- So I don't even know.
Sir, just click participants and you can click on my name, that's Neelam, and you can just right click and make me host.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. So can we start the session, sir? Our authors
Yes.
are also in. Yes, Jay, you can start. You can start with welcome remarks.
Yes, yes. Hello, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to the technical session 2C. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Fifth World Conference on Smart Transit System Security and Sustainability through Zoom. On behalf of Team WorldX for 2021 and Global Knowledge Share Foundation, we are thankful to everyone to present on this platform go along with us digitally for the conference of in this unpredictable circumstances of COVID-19 and making this conference more productive. Also, we wish everyone and their families productive time, and we will pass together soon. We hope you will enjoy 2 days of knowledgeable and interactive sessions. Just before we get started, I would like to introduce you all the session chair, Mr. George Quanum. Mr. George received a BSc degree in computer science for the National University in Berlin in 1996 and MSc degree in computer science from Paris Dauphine University in 2002. He is currently Associate Professor of Namibia University of Science and Technology. His research interests include multi-agent coordination software, architecture, distributed systems, big data infrastructures, and artificial intelligence. Mr. Jules, over to you.
All right, thank you very much for this nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for starting a bit late. In the interest of time, I've already been introduced. I'll be your moderator for this session. So let's get started with the next paper. The presenter, just a quick, throughout the session, each paper will have about 15 minutes. And you should make sure that you get to deliver your presentation within 12 minutes to just leave about 3 minutes for questions. So let's have the next presenter. The title is An Approach Towards Protecting Tribal Lands Through ICT Interventions by K. Reshwa. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Shall I start my session or shall I wait?
Please, you can start presentation.
Yes, you can start.
Okay, let me give 1 minute time so that I will share my screen. So, is my presentation is visible?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yes, very good morning and good afternoon, good evening to you all. I hope in India it is good evening time. Let's thank you for giving this opportunity. I thank to the organizers first of all before starting my presentation. So this paper basically approach towards the protecting tribal lands through ICT interventions. This was written by myself, Rajeshwar, assistant professor in NIRDPR, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, and my colleague Dr. Sonal Mubarak. She was also an assistant professor in the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad, India. So to begin with this, the approach, the background is of so the Panchayat Raj in India, what happens, we have the several land acquisitions and all, but coming to the tribal lands, there was no acquisition. But in 1996, there was a Panchayat Act came up by the government of India, that is of extension to the scheduled areas. We can call it as PESA, that it was placed in only the 9 states under the jurisdiction of the Panchayati Raj National Framework of India. So this act was drafted in accordance with the traditional tribal self-regulation by entrusting Gram Sabha with a special authority, not spelled forth in the National Panchayat Raj institutions. So what happens? No, this study illustrates how ICT is utilized to safeguard tribal lands and investigates an approach to the computerization of tribal lands tribal land accounts for the inclusion of transparency and accountability features. So, and we also tried to conclude with a suggested land information system model, which would encourage data exchange between tribal groups and tribal groups on land ownership information. So land constitutes the cornerstone of all economic growth and can only be properly achieved if there is knowledge about the area. So therefore, all the stakeholders such as planners and administrators need land information. However, the collecting of land data as at all times being a costly endeavor, and hence information is insufficient in most places. So what we have suggested, land information management system, the paradigm, which encourages data exchange among the diverse of land administration stakeholders. Um, so, so how this ICT will be used here? The ICT intervention will be in the in protecting the land, protecting the tribal lands, have given to humanity by enhancing their working culture and providing better public service delivery, better government interactions with companies and industries, empowering citizens through access to information and public participation in decision making. So all in all, effective administration within the government system would enable stakeholders closed. So for land taxes reforms and administration's land records are highly necessary. And for land the manual records do not fulfill the actual demands and cannot properly gather and analyze the data that is vital for the land maps. It was once the task of the so-called village accountants in the India. In India, what happens now? At the Gram Panchayats, village accountants will be there who had the obligation to keep their own land records. Most of these village accountants, however, were not readily accessible, and even if farmers could come in touch, those accountants would ask them for a flat sum of bribes to tell them of what the landowners were entitled to. For mutuations, the situation is other way. Where land records have to be altered. The process is rather lengthy and a complicated process that may take around a year or to update. So for this, for the central and state governments of India, India like a country, the establishment of an effective land information system has been a serious difficulty. So what we have suggested, we have discussed the various initiatives taken up for the land protection, and we have also proposed the tribal land management system for protecting. So here there are some of the e-governance initiatives towards land protection come up in India. So the first project, which is of land records automation, that is of Bhoomi. It's a well-known India's project called Bhoomi. This is the first project which was come up with 100% success. This was actually implemented in India in the state of Karnataka government. So this generally land records automation. So it offers an informatic record of tenancy and crop rights required by farmers for bank loans, settling land disputes, and so on. It also guaranteed more openness and trustworthiness, a substantial decrease in farmers' corruption, exploitation, and persecution. 20 million rural farmers have profited from this effort involving 6.7 million farms. Bhoomi supports, that means this project supports the computerization of 6.7 million farmers, all 20 millions. Sorry, 1 second. Just I'm making my presentation big in presentation mode. So 20 million land ownership data. It is created exclusively for the Karnataka state in India. Dominance of regional language, that is of Kannada, target all people of the state in general to assist the Bhoomi. So mutation occurs within 35 days, wherein it takes at least 200 days normally in the traditional manual technique. So that is the beauty of the system. Distribution of land record is quite high, near about 14 million records. The incidences of mutations every year is compared to the prior system is 1.6 millions. It enables simple and swift access to land records, high proper recording efficiency and rapid mutation. Boomi offers high record reliability, preponderance of local language that allows citizens to interact and acquire services at a relatively very minimal cost, that is of about a little cost rupees, that's all. And the other project which is of card, this is implemented in the state of Andhra Pradesh at the time of bifurcation. Now Andhra Pradesh is divided into two, one is of Andhra Pradesh and another one is of Telangana. So the bifurcated Andhra Pradesh, they have before bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh, this project was implemented, and this project was implemented in the year of 98. Here the computer aided government is nothing but card registration project um, affects 10 million residents over 3 years. This is the beauty here, and it has finished registering 2.8 million titles with 1.4 million incidents of title queries. The technology guarantees transparency in property appraisal and an effective method of document management. The expected savings of 70 million people hours in citizenship were assessed at 35,000 US dollars. That is, the government of Andhra Pradesh have invested $6 million in this project. The card project was intended at fully computerizing a Andhra Pradesh land registration procedure. The National Registration Act of 1998 did not provide for the registration use of computers, but the Andhra Pradesh government changed this law and permitted the use of electronic devices for the land registration procedure. So in the span of 3 years, 90% of registration transactions took place online. So it altered the registration procedures of legal papers in 214 offices in Andhra Pradesh state, and the citizens embraced the card initiative due to its quality and the time needed to complete the registration procedure. So this is another approach of strengthening of revenue administration in India. As you all know, as you are aware of that, the land records will dealt by the revenue administration in the government side, and at the panchayat level, panchayat village accountant will deal here. So in order to
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but you have exceeded the time limit, so kindly conclude the presentation.
Madam, just okay. Thank you. So these are all some of the e-governance initiatives: computerization of land record schemes, National Record Modernization Program, and this is coming to the actual theme, proposed tribal land information system. So we have come up with one good management system. In this we have given some of the important features, that is of land use plan, process plot applications, plot allocations, land use change, plot registration, title transfer, subdivisions, subleasing and subletting, development control and compliance, acquisition and composition, and land board revenues. So in this process, how we can do the data gathering, and how we can provide the creating boundaries, and how the data will be gathered. So these are all some of the procedures we have found, and land information system to solve existing land management and management deficiencies. The planned land information system will make linked data accessible to all stakeholders at a different level of accessibility and data change. This is the beauty of the system. And we have also designed the structure here. it should contain a single database that would be open and linked to all the major players engaged in the land management, maintained by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in India. Especially in India, now Ministry of Tribal Affairs will look after these tribal issues. So that's why we have given. The Ministry of Finance would be responsible for land taxes and the collection of income, where the revenue departments will be available at the district level. So the accessibility, as land quality changes, the relevant departments will have access to and are responsible for their care and validity, while other stakeholders will have only read-only access. This is the beauty we have proposed in this system. At the zonal level and at the sub-zonal level, subsoil boards would provide for data gathering technology capable of gathering attribution data relating to geographic location, ownership, legal, etc. So data security also we have designed, and data transfer procedure also we have given, like by using the GIS technology, overlay of connected and georeference aerial and orthography, as well as digital polygons indicating the polyplot borders as equivalent duplicate of the data is I will conclude the discussions. I will conclude the conclusion part. Just this is one of the most significant act of India, promotes the indigenous rights of tribes over the natural resources. The government has begun on two systems for managing land, namely the state land information management system and the tribal land management system. It is hoped that the two systems being built by will be organized such that access to information will come in the system, will not be available to technocrats to the field in the field of land management. The architecture suggested is here is meant to help a variety of land information users to share data and improve data accessibility. Thank you. If time permits, I'll take the questions over to the administrator.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. I will allow one quick question if there's one, in the interest of time. If there's a question, please go ahead. If not, we'll proceed to the next paper. Is there a question? Right, there seems to be no question. So thank you again for your presentation. We'll proceed to the next paper. A hybrid model.
Thank you all.
A hybrid model on deep learning for the diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy using image cropping by A. Kumari. Could you please share your slides and, okay. Please proceed with your presentation.
I think she is not available, so let's move to the next presentation.
All right. So the next paper is microarterial flow simulation for fluid dynamics. It's a review of it by R. Jaka. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please share your slides and proceed with your presentation?
Just a minute. Can you confirm? Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Hello everyone. I'm Ritu Shravya Jekka from VNR Vignan Jyoti Institute of Engineering and Technology, India, and thank you for giving this opportunity to present the paper named Microarterial Flow Simulation for Fluid Dynamics, a review on 5th World Conference on Smart Trends in Systems, Security and Sustainability. Let us say what is CFD and why use CFD. CFD is a branch of fluid mechanics that uses numerical analysis and data structures to analyze and solve problems that involve fluid flow. Basically, three fundamental principles are involved in CFD: continuity equation, Navier-Stokes equation, Bernoulli's equation. Generally, we solve partial differential equation, but some equations may be complex. So using CFD, we can solve the partial differential equation, and CFD is an alternative to the cost, time-consuming, complex, or impossible experiments, or as well as the theoretical approaches for handling similar situations. As we can see the three posters that heart disease may indicate death risk in COVID patients. Over the years, technology has changed our lifestyle dramatically. Technology has provided incredible tools and resources that bring us valuable information. Technology had made our lives comfortable with all these revolutions. There is a great impact on people's lifestyle. Tuberculosis is the only illness that in many countries around the world is the greatest murder. But now the predominant diseases are non-communicable. Non-communicable diseases kill 41 million people a year, which is 71% of the world's death. Most of the non-communicable diseases are killed in cardiovascular diseases of 17.9 million people each year, followed by cancer, respiratory diseases, and diabetes. So there is a disease called small vessel disease that affects many people worldwide. Small vessel disease is a disease where the small branches of the main coronary artery are weakened and are not adequately detended. The blood flow to the heart reduces when it is unpaired. Small arteries must thus expand to supply blood to the heart with oxygen-rich blood. Then what are the signs and symptoms of small vessel disease? Chest pain, angina, discomfort in your left arm, shortness of breath, tiredness and lack of energy. If angioplasty and stents are taken to cure coronary artery disease, signs and symptoms are not lost. People can even have small vessel disease. We can see the rightmost part, there is a general layout of an coronary artery. And what is the latest technology used to cure this disease? There is a new technique called anastomosis. Microanastomosis is a new surgical treatment for restoring damaged vessels and blood supplies in extreme limbs. This operation establishes contact between adjoining distant sections of the artery or vein, and it is cost-effective, less detrimental, and reliable. We can see in the left before anastomosing and in the right a complete anastomosis. Now our problem statement is to determine the flow of velocity and pressure variation at the walls of the adjacent small arteries, and this analysis is done by using ANSYS CFD Fluent software. The methodology we followed to find out the velocity, flow, and pressure variation in different diameters is by following 3D model reconstruction, initial and boundary conditions, and analyzing the model in CFD. First, 3D model reconstruction. The 3D model was reworked with the help of general coronary artery and was done in SolidWorks software. By considering different trials, finally we considered three conditions, that is 2 outlet valves with the same diameter, 1 outlet valve with a larger diameter and other with a smaller diameter. And the assumptions we considered as all the artery configurations are circular and the angle between the 2 outlet valves is 83 degrees. We can see at the right the general layout of the inlet and outlet valves of a coronary artery. The left wall we considered it as the outlet 2 and the right wall we considered it as an outlet 1. And the condition 1 is diameters of outlets are constant, which is 1.2 mm. And the second condition is diameter of outlet 1 is greater than the diameter of outlet 2. And the third condition is diameter of outlet 2 is greater than the diameter of outlet 1. And initial and finally boundary conditions is the blood rheology was assumed to be laminar and non-Newtonian fluid, and the blood density is 1060 kg per meter cube, and the blood viscosity is known to be 0.003 Pascal second, and the blood enters the inlet wall at a speed of 0.3 meter per second, and the limits such as specific heat were 3513 joule Kelvin, and the thermal conductivity were 0.44 Weber per meter Kelvin. And the third method we followed is analyzing the model in CFD. Based on the 3D model reconstruction, simulation was performed on CFD Fluent software. It is mesh tetrahedral before analysis. Meshing increases the simulation precision and speed. The meshing model is initialized and the results of approximately 150 iterations were determined. The differences in velocities are stimulated by streamlines. We can see the velocity variations by different colors. We have combined 3 different categories of coronary arteries based on the diameter of outlets. In the first case, we can see the diameter of outlets are constant, which is 1.2 mm. Generally, it is a rare possibility. And the graphs we obtained from the condition is static pressure versus position plot of the first condition. This XY plot is between static pressure versus static pressure within the coronary artery and the position from the inlet. This condition has the highest pressure at the vessel inlet, but the pressure drops dramatically as the distance increases. At the connection, the pressure is less and steadily increases after a certain distance. And the next is the velocity versus position from the inlet. The velocity of the blood inside the artery is increasingly rapidly. The initial velocity was 0.3 meter per second and maximum speed was 0.7 meter per second. At the branching, when the blood flows into various outlets, the velocity constantly decreases. At the end of the output, it becomes 0. And the next condition is the diameter of the outlet 1 is greater than the diameter of outlet 2. And we can see the velocity variations. From this condition, we obtain the static pressure and position plot that as like in the previous condition, keeping all other the parameters constant. In this case, the pressure of blood flow is lower than in the previous case. Like in the previous situation, the pressure decreased rapidly as the position get increased. At the branching of the coronary artery, the pressure is at its lowest level and also increased as it moves to the outlets. Next, similarly, when we take the plot of velocity versus position, the velocity of blood that is sent through the inlet increases constantly and reaches a limit of approximately 0.78 meter per second. As per the previous condition, the velocity decreased near the diversion and was nil at.
To interrupt, you have please conclude the presentation.
Okay. And from the condition 3, we get the graphs. The conclusion is we can see the pressure and velocity curves from the 3 conditions. And the future scope is anastomosis is the latest breakthrough in coronary artery disease treatment. This process will save time and be cost effective. Many techniques based on CFD are being developed, which makes the method more reliable and easier. This research is helpful to know the conditions of the artery depending on the diameter of outlets. And the references I refer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions? If there's a question, please raise your hand and proceed with your question. Are there any questions? Okay, there seems to be no question. I just have a quick question here. Have you compared your work to existing research work around the same field of simulating similar stuff?
Can you repeat the question?
Have you compared your work to existing research work around flow simulation?
Is From the literature review only, I concluded the points and I work based on the literature review. Already this technology has been developed in several in other other countries.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the next paper.
Sir, it is a review paper.
Yeah.
So we
I'll
have
just-
last presentation till Aruna in the queue. So we can go ahead with Aruna.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm ready, sir.
Principles like mass privilege, the least.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
When we talk about the
Yes,
infrastructure.
yes, you audible. You can start the presentation.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Excuse me, which presentation is this? Is this the one that we skipped?
Yes, sir, this is the same.
All right, please go ahead then.
Yes, sir. Can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. My title is a hybrid model on the deep learning for the diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy using the image cropping. So under the guidance of Santosh Kumar is my guide. So these are the table of the contents. It will be referred to which we have to moderate and how we have to do the introduction and what kind of literature survey we have to done and what kind of proposed work we have to took here for the we have to compare with the existing results. So this is my abstract and I want to let you share the knowledge on this. So why the motivation for the research work of this on? The people who are facing of diabetes, they may cause affected by the diabetic retinopathy. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. Yeah. So the diabetic retinopathy is one of the major eye condition. So we have to treat it. It's not early stage. We go through the vision loss. So here we have to divide these types into type 1 diabetic retinopathy and type 2 diabetic retinopathy. If the type 1 comes under, we have to give the threshold value as 0 to 4. In the type 2 is only we have to give the scale as 5. That is the complete vision loss. So we have the these type 1, what is type 2? So proliferative and non-proliferative. If the patient causes the proliferative, then he completely vision loss condition. So that is comes under the type 2. If goes to the type 1, that is the 0 to 4, which we have the scale. The 1 is 0 is the no diabetes and the 1 is the mild and the 2 is the moderate and the 3 is the severe. These are the scales and the thresholds we give. So minimum to maximum limit and which difference of we are predicting the diabetes. So the thing is we have to do the screening test and the monitoring every time and take the laser treatment, then we can completely avoid the type 2 diabetes. So the main intention of this is to avoid the vision loss. So then if you're not recognized in the early stages, then complete blind we have to facing the vision loss. So then we have to propose here the early treatment diabetic retinopathy study. So the patient may causes in the severe mode, then we have to accumulate on that. We have to give the some necessary precautions and we have to overcome this complete blindness of thing. So the main motive of this is to avoid the complete vision loss. Then we go through this treatment, how we have to string, what kind of things we have to do, what kind of labeling techniques we have to follow, how the we have to decreasing these blindness, what kind of spotting cotton wool balls, how it will be damaged by the retina, then how we can deviate these circumstances. So we have to follow the convolution neural network. The convolution neural network give the image clarification. We have the name con means two, that is we have to stride the data, like we have to stride the image and we have to give the the matrices should be the max polling, it should be like a resizing kind of thing we have to follow on that. In the literature survey, the findings should be classifying the binary classification. It should be considered under the area under the curve. Then we have to calculate high value to low value for the Kumar, the author. Then we have to consider the graph theoretical approach. Then we go through the decision tree kind of thing. Then we have to match with reference of pixel mapping. So it should be separated the disjointures or the any obligations from the filaments or kind of thing comes under the then we have to segmented the each and every stage for the optical location on this. So it's very a very expensive. Then you have to consider the YAB, that is the ANOVA. Each and everything we have to consider, and we give the analysis on the repetitive process will be going on here. So comes under here the blood vessel segmentation for the color retina. So if the segment should be how we have to texture, how we have to extract based on the color. If he is facing some mild, then I want to give the report has the moderate kind of thing. So the clarification and the text clarification we have to give on process on that. Then we have to go through here the optic disc for the novel approach for the camel. Then here the RGB, that is we know very well scale for that 0 to 255. So gray is 0 to 255. Then we have to here the three different, that is the red, green, and the blue. Then we have to consider the each and every scale here, the vessels. But the thing is here the data mining classification is goes on. Now our proposed system is using CNN, convolution neural network. So come to our proposed work. So we have to deal with the image classifications. It should be the step-by-step procedure, how it will be goes on. So first thing, then we have to go through here. Each and everything will be monitored by proposed crop circle, because of we are circle. If we are facing any different for the normal eye to abnormal eye, easily we have to circle that the spotting of the particular eye. Then easily we can recognize that, oh, the particular patient will have some kind of diseases. So there is no loss of vision here. So then we have to go through here the stepwise procedure. For the step one, we go through our Ben-Grams algorithm. The Ben-Grams algorithm will be followed by the grayscale representation. So then after why grayscale, some clarity or the classification is anything missing else, then we go through a bifurcate step 2, that is our Gaussian's blur. Then here we have to see our a vision, like our image has the color wise. Then we have to calculate what kind of the color images, how it will be spotted on every circle with the reference of the pixel value. Then we have to rescaling and reducing the resolutions, and it will be depends on more and more, it will be give a more accurate value. So compared to the results, we have to take the this data from the CAL, and we represent with reference of this scaling factor, and we can give the plotting of the accuracy with comparison of the results with step 1, step 2 procedure kind of thing. In the step 3, we can give the quality results. In the conclusion, we have to follow the stepwise procedure with reference of mapping of pixels, and we can give the cropping them, and we have to evaluate the grayscales, and we can accumulating on that with reference of color, and we can multiply with reference of the weights, and we have to give the better, and if any blood vessels, for example, what is the dry condition of the eye, what is the wet condition of the eye, the hyperparameter tuning. We have to follow each and every step in this particular work on the stepwise procedure. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Any queries from?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for keeping the time. Are there any questions?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no question. I have a quick question. If you were, I can see you have a specific algorithm for doing your cropping. If you were to do the cropping using some specific filters, so you take the complete image of the eye and you use some specific filters during the convolution, what
Yeah.
will be the difference compared to your work?
Yeah, the convolution, we have to mapping each and everything. Same thing here, we have to filterizing the left, right. First, I want to consider the left position, then apply the convolution, then right. Each and every side by side step, we have to mapping with reference of convolution, then we have to give the accurate value. So it's filtering step by step with reference of, the eye should be the left or the right, top or the bottom. It should be back at the front, and we have to accumulate each step by step with reference of our CNN, convolution neural network.
Okay, I'm not, what I'm trying to find out is you're doing the cropping as part of the pre-processing of the data, right?
Yeah.
If you were to do the cropping as part of the learning process,
Yeah.
through the convolution layers, like using filters, how will that be different from the work you're doing?
Before pre-processing steps, you're asking for the CNN, right?
So your work pre-processes the data, doing the cropping of different types of, the left, the bottom, etc., etc. And my question is whether if you have different filters during in your convolutional layers to identify those specific features in different crops, integrated to the learning process as opposed to having them in the pre-processing, how would that be different from your work?
Yeah, we have to give the threshold value, then we can apply the if we go there and give these is the comes under the type 1 and type 2 diabetes, then we can simply analyze the data and we can give the I or whatever it may be, the scale which we have to follow on that. Then we have to give that particular image and easily evaluate on that.
Okay. All right, I think we'll move on to the next paper. The next presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. Sorry. The next paper is a CNN LSTM approach for classification of major TCP conjunction control algorithms by V. Venkataraman.
Yeah, yes, sir. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Will you please share your screen?
Yeah, 2 minutes, sir. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, so we'll be looking at a CNN and STM approach for classification of major TCP congestion control algorithm. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I am V. Venkatraman, and along with Nitya ma'am, Nitin Balaji, and Chandrachud. So, we are a team from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli, India. And this is the title of the paper that we have worked on, CNN LSTM approach for classification of major TCP congestion control algorithms. So, we'll start with a quick introduction. So, so the introduction is basically about transmission control protocol, or TCP. So what is TCP? So TCP is a protocol present in the TCP layer of TCP/IP system. So TCP provides a reliable connection oriented and ordered error check delivery of a stream of bytes between applications. So it's a host-to-host communication. So it has immense applications in the internet. So like World Wide Web, email, FTP, all these different protocols use TCP as their backbone. So over the years, as network has expanded, so there are many different specific variants of TCP itself that have been introduced. So these TCP congestion control algorithms, each of them have their own characteristics in dealing with flows, in dealing with congestion, and so on. So algorithmically, they are very different. So identification of these different algorithms of the TCP has become very important to view trends in network traffic. So like we want to do some network engineering in internet or try to find out the harmful flows, it will be very useful for doing a TCP congestion control algorithm classification. So about the classification methods, a lot of different approaches are there. So we can broadly classify them into two types based on the active or passive. So basically an active classification approach, what it does is it takes a dummy server and communicates with the client, and based on the data transfer, it tries to classify it into the specific TCP variant. And the passive, on the other hand, it doesn't actually participate in the communication process, whereas it's just like a monitors system communicating with another system. So like from the two examples itself, we can understand that TCP does not model real flows very well, whereas passive models real flows very well. And another types of classification based on implementation is whether it's manual or machine learning based. So here manual is where a person takes this data and uses some graph or a finite state machine to try to classify the TCP algorithm. Whereas in automated machine learning based, a machine does that for you. So these two methods, the better one is obviously the machine learning based because it's faster, more accurate, and can easily be scaled to bigger systems. So in this paper, we have used a machine learning based passive approach. So because it takes the best of all these features. So the dataset classification model. So the dataset, we have used three major classification algorithms: TCP New Reno, TCP High Speed, and TCP Veno. So these are main fundamental algorithms. So New Reno is using partial acknowledgement feature, and TCP High Speed is used when there is high capacity channels and uses a long bandwidth relay product. TCP Veno is a smarter algorithm which uses bandwidth queue and tries to find out whether congestion has occurred or not. So these are the respective features of these three individual algorithms. So the classifiers, ML neural network classifiers that we've used for classification are LSTM, which is long short-term memory recurrent neural network model, a CNN, which is convolutional neural network, and a hybrid CNN LSTM, which is a combination of both LSTM and CNN, and a convolutional LSTM, which is basically an LSTM layer where instead of normal input state transitions, the multiplication operations there are replaced with convolutional operations. So it is like a compact modern form of the hybrid CNN LSTM. So relevant works which already been done are by Comer and others, which use a methodology of active probing. So this is an active method which is used in classification of a specific TCP variant using different probing methods. And limitation of this, like I've seen said earlier, is that active doesn't model real flows very well. Another active method uses a web server to send 512 data segments, and this is by Yang and others. So again, even though high accuracy is achieved in these two methods, they are not modeling real flows very well. So we move on to another passive relevant works done. So Jaiswal and others is one such paper which used an NS simulator using a dumbbell technology. And this uses a finite state machine, which is basically a manual method, not a machine learning based, which uses the finite state machine to try to classify between Reno variants, whether it's a new Reno, old Reno, or Tahoe. And another passive approach by Hagos and others uses the multiplicative backoff factor beta, which is used as a decreasing congestion window factor, and uses that beta factor to differentiate between TCP variants. And the limitation of this approach is that it is much more complex than using a congestion window value itself. And Ozeki, Yamamoto, and others, they used an LSTM-based classifier model. And this is actually the best among all the relevant works. So we have tried to expand on this work. And what it does is it takes an LSTM model, tries to classify the CWND data. Their method is very good, their method is very novel, but it doesn't achieve higher accuracy because they have simply used a pure vanilla based LSTM. So what we are trying to do in this paper is using a hybrid CNN LSTM. CNN generally used for image classification, but however, in combination with LSTM, like we will see in this research work, it can work wonders in classification, especially for temporal data set like CWND data set. So our proposed method consists of 3 steps. Our first step consists of generation of congestion window value files. So CWND is a TCP state variable that limits the amount of data that TCP can send into the network before receiving an ACK. So our method here is to generate the trace files. From the trace files, we will take a data segment and the corresponding ACK segment. And we will take the previously acknowledged value as ACK1 dash and the previously received data segment as data2. and we will subtract the sequence number and ACK number of these two and divide it by maximum segment size. And from there, we will get the CWNT value. Like this, we will repeat for all the flows and we will get a data set of CWNT values. So this is the generation step. The second step is normalization of data. So our congestion window values are very varied and random. So we need to normalize them. By normalizing, we basically consist of 3 steps. The first step is we will have a long elaborate row. So we have to split them into separate rows. So the splitting is done at packet loss. So we will artificially simulate some packet loss in the NS3 simulator, and at each packet loss, we'll break it and push the next to the next row. So we have a non-breaking data set as one row. And from there, we will sort by sequence length so that only the longest sequence are important to us. This process is known as slicing. From there, we'll perform Bashir normalization. So Bashir normalization is very similar to
Sorry
Minimax
to
normalization.
interrupt.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but last 2 minutes left for the presentation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, after normalization, then we will normalize them into input length as 128 using the algorithm. And the third step, final step, is using the machine learning classifiers. And from here, we have LSTM, CNN, LSTM, and convolutional LSTM. So input for all this and output remains same, which is a normalized 128 then CWNT values, and labels using one-hot encoding as output. So LSTM here has hidden layer as LSTM, whereas the CNN model has hidden layers as 2 CNN 1D layers. Where CNN LSTM layer has both of these features, and convolutional LSTM on the other hand uses one convolutional LSTM 2D layer. And from there, this is simulation performance analysis. These are the data set from which we have observed from estimation, and this is while running for 6,000 seconds, 100 Mbps Ethernet speed, and 0.01 error rate. So these are the different data sets that we get. And then we perform classification using the 4 classifiers. These are the training and validation accuracy graphs that we obtain. And finally, we have the performance metrics. This is the heart of our research work. So from here, we can see that observing the values of accuracy, precision, recall, and F1, we can straight away say that one of our observations is that the hybrid CNN LSTM has much better accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 as compared to remaining models. So we can say that, like our initial claim, the hybrid model CNN LSTM works much better than individual LSTM and CNN. This is because it combines the deep learning factor of LSTM, deep extractive learning, and the faster feature extraction of CNN. Another observation that we can make is that whereas the CNN has higher accuracy than LSTM because of faster feature extraction, the LSTM performs better than CNN in F1 score, recall, and precision. This is because LSTM as its characteristic is suited for temporal data set learning. And another final observation is that the convolutional LSTM is performing as well, almost as good as the CNN LSTM hybrid. So, and it uses while computing the parameters for convolutional LSTM, the computational complexity and resources used are much less. So in large scale applications where a slight increase in accuracy is not much preferred as compared to computational resource reduction, a convolutional LSTM layer can be used instead of a hybrid CNN LSTM. And yeah, this brings us to the end of the research work. So the steps that we have done is we have generated the data set and we have normalized them into time sequences, and 4 classifiers have been used, and performance metrics follows the order of CNN LSTM greater than convolutional LSTM greater than CNN greater than LSTM. And this also demonstrates how CNNs generally used for image classification can be applied to time series data. And yeah, network operators, the impact of our research work is that network operators can greatly benefit by using a hybrid CNN LSTM approach for TCP algorithm classification. Yeah, thank you. Any queries?
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very clear. Are there any questions in the room? If there's any question, please raise your hand and proceed. Okay, there's no question. I just wanted a quick clarity. Actually, I like what you did in the comparison of the results, particularly comparing the hybrid CNN LSTM and the convolutional LSTM. But what I didn't quite follow is the computational cost of both architectures. Could you please repeat what you said?
The thing is, in CNN LSTM, what we are using is this table. Yeah. So what we are using is the number of layers and the number of neurons are greatly increased because it is using both the features of LSTM as well as CNN. So we'll have a hidden layer of LSTM also. So like for LSTM, we need lots of neurons for proper training. So like 100 neurons considered in my research work. So like this, so it increases the computation greatly because each layer that you increase, it increases the computation cost. Whereas in convolutional LSTM, this convolution layer is present as a feature within the LSTM itself, within the layer. So we don't need extra neurons and so on. So it's like a more compact model.
Okay, so although the matrix, particularly the accuracy, is the same, it's in terms of computational cost, it's better to use the convolutional LSTM than to use the hybrid. That's very good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other question? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I think we're going to move on to the next presentation. So the next presentation is predicting sentiment and emotion on ASD using machine learning and deep neural networks based on Twitter data by T. Praveen. Are you in?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Greetings to you. Will you please share your screen and proceed?
Okay, sir. Thank you. Is my screen is visible, sir?
Yes, it is.
Am I audible, sir?
You are audible.
So very good evening to all of you. So I'm T. Lakshmi Praveena. I'm a research scholar from Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh in India. My guide is N.V. Muthulakshmi Madam, under the supervision of N.V. Muthulakshmi Madam. Okay, my paper is on predicting the sentiment and emotion on ASD using machine learning and deep learning neural networks on Twitter data. Okay, we'll get into the topic paper. Okay. So the abstract of my paper is like this. Autism spectrum disorder. Okay, this is a disorder generally observed within the at the birth of the child. Okay, by the birth of the child, this neural disorder will be occurred within the child. Okay, so this disorder will cause their life disturbs, and it will create the development delay and speech delay and communication delays. Okay, so to create the awareness of this autism spectrum disorder to the people, and also to provide the such a helpful for information on regarding causes of the autism spectrum disorder and treatments related information. I'm proposing a methodology which is used to predict the sentiment and emotion of tweets posted by the different experts and stakeholders like parents and caretakers and others. They will post the different types of messages in the popular Twitter website. Okay, from that I'm taking the messages related to ASD, and I'm emotion on that messages. Okay, which will create the awareness on the ASD causes and ASD treatments to the general people and stakeholders. Okay. For this, I'm using a natural language processing. This is for predicting of a sentiment. This is a general method generally used for predicting of a sentiment and emotion. Okay, compared to this natural language processing methods, okay, the advanced methods of machine learning and deep neural networks are advanced to these natural language processing methods. Okay, for this paper, I'm using the natural language processing for getting a sentiment and emotion on the Twitter message. Okay, using that analyzed messages, okay, I'm predicting the sentiment and emotion using a machine learning algorithms and deep neural networks. Okay, why? Because whenever we are using a natural language processing, every time we need to do the processing of a message, and every time we need to pre-process the message, And every time we need to do the processing of a sentiment and emotion analysis. Okay, this is a repeated work we need to perform. Okay, this can be reduced with the help of a machine learning and deep neural networks. Okay, and I'm also providing a comparison between the deep learning and the machine learning methods. Okay, so this comparative analysis provides a result as a DNN is more efficient than the ML algorithms, and ML is efficient than the natural language, the standard method of the sentiment and emotion analysis. So the ASD, just we will go through the light introduction of ASD. ASD is a birth-based neurological disorder, and it is presently 2.5% in the world population. And it has symptoms of like hyperactivity, impulsiveness, carelessness, and social communication, lack of social communication. And this is generally observed within the child. Okay, and the analysis will provide the decision making advantages for the stakeholders. So that this paper is providing the sentiment and emotion analysis and prediction method on the ASD causes and treatments. Okay. The data is collected from the Twitter social media website. And coming to the sentiment and emotion analysis, sentiment analysis is generally called as predicting of a sentiment from a message. Okay, for this we'll use a natural language processing algorithms, okay, which will predict whether the message is a positive message or a negative message or a neutral message. Okay, based on this, we can find out that whether the message is giving a positive way opinion or negative opinion or neutral opinion. Okay, this is an overall message opinion, which is a brief opinion of the message. Okay, but whenever we want to see the deep deep opinion of the message, okay, then we can go for the emotions. Okay, where we can predict the happy, sad, surprise, fear, and angry emotions. Okay, from the messages. Okay, so that I'm taking a sentiment for the brief opinion and emotion for the in detailed opinion of the messages. Okay, my proposed methodology related diagram, flow diagram is this. Okay, first I'm collecting a Twitter data, then pre-processing a tweet using a NLP, NLTK algorithms, and then I'm going for sentiment analysis and emotion analysis. Okay, within the sentiment analysis, again, I'm applying the sentiment predicted messages with the machine learning and also the deep learning. And also for the emotion related messages, I'm applying the machine learning and deep learning algorithms. Okay, this is a process of pre-processing of Twitter messages. Initially, we'll take the one by one Twitter message and initially we'll eliminate the duplicates, then substitute the special characters and hashtags and remove the punctuations and remove the stop words and then tokenize the words as the unigrams and bigrams and multigrams. Okay, then we'll do the stemming of the words by removing the additional letters that are attached to the words. Okay, and then once these messages are pre-processed, then these are collected, these are combined and formed as a data set. Okay, this data set is given as an input to the sentiment analysis and emotion analysis process. Okay, so in the sentiment analysis, first we will take the messages from the pre-processed messages. Okay, these messages are undergone with the sentiment analysis process and where we will calculate the polarity score. Okay, this polarity score gives us the score of the sentiment. Okay, if the polarity score is greater than the negative score, then we'll call it as the sentiment is a positive. If the negative score is more, then the message is called as a negative sentiment. If these two are equal, then we'll call the message as a neutral message. And in the emotion analysis, here we'll go for the finding of scores for the emotions. The emotions are happy, sad, fear, and surprise and angry. Okay, based on the related words presented within the Twitter message, the message will be categorized into the any one of these emotions. Okay, based on that, based on the maximum score, will be classify the message into the any particular emotion. Okay, the machine algorithms and for sentiment and emotion prediction is, okay, machine algorithms are very convenient and very useful than that of the repeated process of the regular sentiment and emotion analysis process, okay, which will reduce the computation time, and also it reduces the accurate, reduces the computation cost, and increases the accuracy of the sentiment and emotion analysis. Okay, the algorithms applied here are the decision tree algorithm, random forest, naive Bayes, k-nearest neighbor, linear regression, and linear SVM and non-linear SVM. Out of these algorithms, I got the better accuracy for decision tree and k-nearest neighbor algorithms. I got the better accuracy.
Sorry to interrupt, but you have last 1 minute.
Okay, sir, thank you. And deep learning, from the deep learning, I'm using algorithms are RNN, DCNN, and DNN model algorithms. And I also applied the base model and reduced model, drop model algorithms. Okay, this is the architecture of the my deep learning model. Okay. The number of layers and layer size and total parameters and trainable parameters that are used within the different DNN deep learning models. This is the flow accuracy comparison, the sentiment and emotion comparison of the ASD causes. Okay, ASD causes are generally like a genetic, prenatal, and vaccines and environmental conditions medication. Okay, within this, there's a positive accuracy, positive sentiment and negative sentiment neutral, and as in the same way, they like emotion percentage. Okay, so whenever we observe these two are the similar. And as in the same way, this is for the emotion analysis related accuracy, the emotion related percentage of the sentiment and emotion. Okay. Next, this is for the ML algorithms and DL algorithms on the sentiment and emotion predictions. Whenever we observe this, okay, we'll get the standard accuracy within the DL algorithms than compared to the ML algorithms. Okay, this is a comparison of the ML and DL algorithms. Okay, here we can see we have the DL algorithms has a more accurate than that of the machine learning algorithms. Okay. So the main purpose of this paper is to provide the awareness on the ASD causes and treatments to the stakeholders. And this proposed methodology can also apply on the different diseases, okay, to help the people and to understand the feelings and emotions of the others of the specified diseases. Thank you. Any queries?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Queries, please, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Are there any questions in the room? Right.
So I would have a question. Can I speak?
Okay. Please go ahead.
So thank you very much for your presentation. It's very nice. And so what do you think, is there a high computational effort for this? Because you said you have to do it a lot of times. And so can you maybe say something more about this? What is the effort compared to machine learning normally? What's the reason for this? Yes.
Sorry, sir. I didn't get the question clearly. I'm not able to understand the question actually.
So you meant that that you have to do a lot of calculations to do this sentiment analysis.
Yes,
and so what is exactly the reason that it only works when you have to do such a lot of computations?
Yeah, I'm using a Python libraries for this computation, sir. And to reduce that reputational computation process, we are going for this machine learning and deep learning networks. I think, am I given a proper answer?
Okay, now also I understand. So you mean it's just the usual stuff, or so to speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Right. So the next presenter, the next paper is Hip Hop Culture Insights Criminal Behavior, a Deep Learning Study by N. Abanji. Are you in? Right. Please go ahead. Hello, is the next presenter in the room?
Excuse me, sir.
Sir.
We are just having a bit of mic issues. Just give us a minute, please.
All right.
Yes, presenter is there.
Yeah, the
Okay.
presenter is ready. Just 1
Whenever
minute.
whenever the mic issue is sorted, the presenter can just go ahead and show the slides and proceed to presentation.
Yes, sir.
So can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, so I will just share my screen from another device. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. Let me introduce our topic to you all by demonstrating this very interesting social phenomenon. So, just a second. Yeah. So humans are what we call a hypersocial species, which means we learn more by trying to imitate each other or trying to imitate people that we look up to rather than thinking using our own brains. So if, for instance, there is this very popular influencer or celebrity, this person does something, suppose a fashion statement, then you will see that it is very likely that a huge portion of society will actually try and imitate this person. This is what we call the chameleon effect, which means people try to sort of blend into the environments that they are brought up in. But what we are trying to answer here today is what happens when this same influencer or celebrity or music artist, for that matter, does something that the people know is morally incorrect, like, for instance, promote violence or substance abuse. Will people still react in the same way? Will they still try and mimic this person? That's the question they're trying to answer in this piece. Let me talk a little bit about the hip hop culture. So if you see this graph, this green line depicts rap songs, or what is rap songs are basically what consists of hip hop music. And if you see after 2010, there is a general increase in the amount of rap songs, popular rap songs being released, and it has very rapidly overcome all other forms of music like rock and R&B. So this is the reason we decided that the hip hop genre is what we should specifically target for this study. So we narrowed our study down to only the hip hop genre. This is a representation of the process of the whole research, start to finish. So we started out by some lyrics data collection and then building an algorithm. Now this data collection and this algorithm consisted of 50% of our whole research. Following this, we conducted a few visualizations, and finally, in order to obtain an actual link between the characteristics of these lyrics and actual criminal arrest data, or how people behave socially, we collected real criminal arrest data and we tried to obtain a correlation. So this is just a demonstration of the whole process, start to finish, of how things work. I'll talk about the models first. So I'll first explain what this model is doing in a nutshell. The purpose of the algorithm, to build any algorithm, what the input is in this algorithm is rap song lyrics in the form of text. Okay, so this symbol that you see here is essentially the input, which is lyrics in the form of text. What this model is doing is it is giving us as an output a degree of misogyny, a degree of violence, and a degree of substance abuse in that song. So this should be done using machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms. And I do not use the word categorization because we are not essentially categorizing the songs. We are only finding a degree, which means a song could be both misogynistic and violent to some extent. Now, as I said earlier, every model needs to train on some data. And since this is the first research of its kind that has been computational research that has been done, so we had to make the training data from scratch. So we generated the training data. What we did is we took rap song lyrics that fell into either of these three categories. They were either degrading women or they were promoting violence. And then
Hello, ma'am. I guess you are muted.
hello. Bolu. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so I think had I covered the purpose of the model and the training data? So I'll move on with the model architectures now that we know what the training data consisted of.
Hello.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sir, I'm very sorry. We have some internet connection issues in this area. It's raining very heavily. I will continue now.
Okay.
So the idea was to build multiple models, machine learning or artificial intelligence models, and then choose the best one among them. So the first one that we made was the support vector machine, which essentially what it does is it makes something of a hyperplane, and then it tries to categorize the data using that high dimensional hyperplane. This is a vector machine. The next one is the random forest regressor, a random forest tree. The problem with this random forest tree is that the more data you put into it and the more trees you want to generate in it, it starts using a lot of time. So we could not really use these two. They gave us an accuracy of 82% and 76% respectively. The third algorithm is the Naive Bayes. This defeated the earlier two models with an accuracy of 85%. It works on the Bayes theorem. It's a very strong machine learning model. And the final attempt was the long short-term memory, also what called as the LSTM, which gave us an accuracy of 87%. So this defeated all the other models in its performance. But the reason we ultimately chose the LSTM is because it has a peculiar ability to, you could say the LSTM has something of a memory of its own, which means it remembers previous outputs and then it bases its current outputs on those previous outputs. So you could say it looks at things sequentially and it remembers the previous data. So when we're talking about text, for instance, this is a green leaf. Every word in this sentence is heavily dependent on the word preceding it. Leaf is very much dependent on the word green. So text is sequential and LSTM looks at things sequentially, to put it in a nutshell. So that's why we specifically chose the LSTM as our model of application. What we are doing with this model, what was the point of creating this whole algorithm, was to target a specific decade. In this case, the decade was 2010 to 2020, because if you saw in the graph I showed earlier, 2010 is the year when hip hop really gained its popularity. The point of this whole thing was to get a year-wise degree of misogyny, violence, and substance abuse in the hip hop culture throughout the decade, year-wise. So what we did is we put 500 of the most influential songs of the decade in the algorithm. It processed it for a couple of minutes, and then it gave us this as the final output. So this was the point of the first half of the research, entirely speaking. I will now speak a little bit about the visualizations. We have done more visualizations in the actual research, but I will be covering two interesting visualizations right now. So depending on outputs, none of these is manual. This is all dependent on the outputs that the model gave us. So if you look on the x-axis over here, you will see some very popular, in fact, these are the most popular artists of the decade. And plotted against them are the number of songs that each of these artists had among the most objectionable songs of the decade, according to the model. So for instance, this first artist is here, had one song among the most misogynistic songs of the decade and 2 songs among the most violent songs of the decade. So this is how this graph works. This one is, it's sort of a variation of how many times these individual substances, alcohol, marijuana, and synthetic narcotics, were directly referred to in hip-hop songs for decades. So for instance, in 2013, 5 out of every 1,000 words were direct references to marijuana. So if you think about it, 5 out of 1,000 words as direct references to marijuana is quite a bit. I will now move to the final part of the presentation, which is actually trying to obtain a correlation between the criminal arrest data and the model outputs that we got. All of these lyrics, whatever analysis we did on the lyrics. Now we're trying to obtain an actual correlation between social behavior and these popular culture references. It's not this criminal arrest data that was conducted was not random. We needed to ask some questions to ourselves. Firstly, whose criminal data are we trying to target? These people whose criminal data we are collecting need to be heavily influenced by the hip hop culture. To make the study very relevant, they needed to be influenced by the hip hop culture. So we chose people who lived in very strongly rooted hip hop cultures. And we also chose people who were in the age group that heavily listened to the hip hop genre. So 10 to 29 years of age and strongly rooted hip hop cultures, areas with very strong, like Detroit, Washington. These were the areas where we targeted because many of these were actually birthplaces of hip hop. Secondly, second question we're asking ourselves is which crimes are we targeting? As I said, we're characterizing these songs by misogyny, violence, and substance abuse. Each of these characteristics specifically associate themselves with a particular set of crimes. For instance, misogyny would be associated with sex offenses, prostitution, rape, such kind of crimes. Violence would be associated with murder, homicide, assault, and so on and so forth. This was how the criminal arrest data was narrowed down and how it was made very relevant to our input data, which was the songs. Now that we had collected, we made sure all of this data was collected from official US government websites to make it legitimate and to make sure that it's valid. Now that we had compiled all of this criminal arrest data, we actually set out to see if there is a correlation between them.
Sorry to interrupt, please ma'am, conclude the presentation.
Sorry, yeah.
I think you have last 1 minute, kindly conclude your presentation.
Yeah. Finally, coming to the correlation, if you see this graph, 14 out of 16 of the instances of correlation are positive, which means that when the misogyny in the lyrics was on the rise, the misogyny in the crimes that people were committing, the misogynistic crimes that people were committing were also increasing in the same time span. And this is true for 14 out of these 16 instances. 14 out of 16 is enough evidence to suggest that popular culture has an inherent link with how people think and the kind of crimes that they commit, to the point where it could affect the whole society and its crime rate in general. Thank you for listening to me. If you all have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions?
Sorry?
Thank you for your presentation. Can I have a question?
Yes, please.
So, so thank you very much. It was quite interesting. What do you think is the reason for this, that there is such a strong correlation?
Firstly, the reason I would say is in this study, we have specifically targeted young people, as you saw. And we already have a huge number of psychological studies that tell us that young people are more influenced by the cultures that they are exposed to than we know. Even if you are 24, even if you are 25, you are very, very likely to think that something is normal. And the four of us are 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and we have seen this happen around us. We have seen people get affected by songs talking about violence, songs talking about drugs. We have seen this happen around us. So on a personal level, we have seen it, and we also have studies suggesting the same.
Yes, very interesting. I think it has to do with the unconsciousness. And so this is words in any form, especially in the culture, go in the unconsciousness, and there they have an effect. And so you're totally right. I think that's for the youngest much more relevant, I think. Thank you.
All right, any other question? Okay, I've got a comment and a question. My comment is just whether using an attention-based model like, transformer wouldn't have yielded you a better performance for your machine learning model, but that's just a comment. My question is about the bias in the data. How confident are you that there's no bias in your data? Because this is a sensitive issue of, if you allow me, eventually people being accused of things. So we always have to make sure that the issue of bias is addressed properly. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I heard half of what you said about how the data could be sensitive. I did not understand you completely.
So I was saying that this is a very sensitive topic.
Yes,
But
it is.
eventually, if you read your title, it's like very accusatory. So we always have to make sure that the issue of bias is properly addressed.
Yes, sir. But we have, if we would have gotten maybe 50 or 40% of the correlations right, then we would have still maybe suggested that this could be due to external factors. But even we were not expecting to find such a strong correlation. This was just something that we started out as an experiment. But this is not just about the hip hop culture, sir, because the reason we targeted the hip hop culture is simply because it's popular and we personally grew up listening to it. But this study could be carried forward to any number of genres in any number of decades, and we could possibly find the same results.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up question. If you have a lyric, for example, that is referring to misogyny in a sarcastic way, are you confident that your system is still able to pick it up and dissociate it from the conclusions that you're arriving at?
In a sarcastic way, did you say? I wasn't able to hear you properly.
Yeah. Yes. So you have a lyric that actually mentions the word misogyny somehow. But I don't know how, if you're doing it like literally or semantically, but whichever way, if the lyric is mentioning misogyny, for example, in a sarcastic way rather, not a literal way, is your system able to pick it up? And so it shouldn't be part of the crime commission that we see at the end.
It should not be. But yeah, but as far as we know, usually even when things are said or shown to be sarcastic, it's usually in films. You would rarely ever see songs say something that they don't mean or say something sarcastically. However, if there was to be a case, the study could be extended by involving a sarcasm detection model with it. But even though there would have been some songs that don't mean what they say or mean the opposite, those just would have been the outliers in our case. But most of our songs were not meant exactly what they said. So our model was able to handle that reasonably well.
All right. Are there any other questions in the room? If not, this is the end of the presentation. I'll hand it over to the host. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you so much, sir.
I sincerely thank our audience for their excellent presentation in this session, and all our participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough. All the presenters would be getting their digit certificate through email within 2 working days. Further, all the papers have already forwarded to the Springer. The publication will be live within 5 to 6 months. Kindly cooperate with the team of World Sport 2021. I also thank our session chair, Mr. Jose Coinum, for chairing the session. Sir, this is a token of appreciation of on behalf of Team World Sport and Global Knowledge Foundation. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable presence.
Thank you too.
Can you please turn the camera on so that we can have a quick snapshot for the virtual conference?
Thank you so much. Take care all. Stay safe.